The pattern, not the person, the pattern. The thing that keeps showing up across different relationships, seasons, and versions of your life. The colleague who always seems to underdeliver, your friend who never quite shows up fully, or the dynamic that feels frustratingly familiar even though the cast keeps changing. At some point, the common thread stops being them and starts being you. Welcome to Daily Power Boost. I'm Sean Michael. This isn't a podcast about pushing harder or fixing yourself. It's a space to see clearly how your experience is actually being created. Each episode offers a simple shift in understanding, not a tactic, not a hustle, a clearer view of thought, identity, and the patterns you've been living inside. Because when misunderstanding drops, relief rises, energy returns. You move forward with calm, sovereign clarity. This is your Daily Power Boost. Welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Last time we talked about self-leadership, how you can't lead others farther than you've led yourself, and how leadership is a broadcast, not a behavior set. Today, that broadcast meets its first real test, your relationships. Because the people around you aren't just your network, team, or inner circle, they're data. Precise, consistent, often uncomfortable data about the identity you're currently operating from. Learning to read that data rather than explain it away or blaming the source is one of the most powerful identity moves available to you. I want to tell you about a season in my own life when I finally stopped explaining the pattern away. For a stretch of time, I kept finding myself in relationships where I was doing most of the work. Most of the reaching out and showing up and carrying the emotional load. I had very reasonable explanations for all of it. They were busy. Maybe they're going through a difficult season. They're not naturally expressive. Potentially true. Underneath that, the explanation was something I was not looking at directly. I was choosing people who needed a lot from me, not consciously, consistently. Because somewhere in my own self-concept was a belief that my value in a relationship was tied to my usefulness in it. That mirror wasn't showing me other people's limitations. It was showing me my own equations. Worth equals contribution. Stop contributing, you'll see what's left. That's a painful thing to see clearly, and also one of the most useful things I've ever looked at. Because once I saw it, the pattern stopped being a recurring frustration. It became a precise indicator of where my identity work still needed to go. So, what is the relationship mirror actually? Every sustained relationship in your life reflects something back about your self-concept. Not because the other person is a prop in your story, but because we consistently attract, tolerate, and maintain relationships that are congruent with how we see ourselves. The person who believes they're not quite enough tends to surround themselves with people who confirm that quietly. It's not cruel, it's just the dynamics. The leader who hasn't examined their need for control, they tend to build teams that either comply or quietly disengage. Both are responses to the same broadcast signal. The high performer who ties worth to output, they tend to attract relationships that are transactional because that's the currency they usually trade in. None of this is blame. It's just pattern recognition at the identity level. And that is where real change actually begins. Here's what shifts when you learn to read the mirror honestly. Frustration becomes information. The colleague who keeps underdelivering stops being a personal problem It becomes a question worth sitting with. What am I tolerating here that I wouldn't tolerate if I fully believed my own standards are worth holding? The dynamic that keeps repeating stops feeling like bad luck. It becomes a precise signal of where your self-concept is still running an old program. And perhaps most significantly, the relationships that start shifting as you do the work stop feeling like losses and feel more like evidence. You see, when your identity updates, your relational field updates with it. It's not dramatic, it's gradual. The people who were drawn to the old version of you slowly find less to hold on to. And the people who resonate with who you're becoming start appearing with less effort than you had expected. It's not magic, it's congruence. Your outside world is catching up with your inside work. Your single question for today is this. Think about a relationship dynamic that keeps recurring in your life. Not a specific person, the dynamic itself. And ask yourself, if this pattern is a mirror rather than a coincidence, what is it showing me about what I currently believe I deserve, require, or am worth in a relationship? Don't answer it too quickly. Resist the pull toward explaining the other person. Stay with what the mirror might be showing you. That's where the useful information lives. If you've been circling a relational pattern and sensing there's something in it worth looking at more directly, book your clarity call. We'll look at the pattern, identify what it's reflecting, and find the identity thread running through it all. The link is in the show notes. Next time, there's a specific struggle that shows up almost universally in high performers, and it has nothing to do with capability or effort. It's all about what happens when good things arrive, and why receiving is harder than achieving for more people than anyone admits. With Strength and Heart, I'm Sean Michael. Stay close. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.